In today's video, I want to break down a scenario that most people completely misunderstand. Could you retire in the next 3 years with just 3000 XRP? Is that even a realistic scenario? Or is all about hype and speculation? And before we get started, nothing in this video is supposed to be taken as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I do have to make a confession. I did set a small line in the thumbnail, and that's about the number of years. I actually wanted to say retiring 4 years with just 3000 XRP. 3000 XRP in 3 years actually sounded better, but the real deadline I always envision is about 2030. We are in February 2026, so we can actually say 3 years and 10 months. And there is a reason why I want to talk about 2030 specifically. I'm gonna get there in a second. Most people look at XRP throughout the lens of short-term price volatility. They think about XRP and the first thing that comes to mind is BTC movements. And honestly, I can understand. To this day, XRP is still coupled to BTC movements. So traders simply focus on volatility and daily moves. This is surface level thinking. Most retail investors are thinking on the short term, they're not envisioning what XRP is going to become in the future. Technical analysis and market cap are definitely not limiting factors for XRP price appreciation. The real conversation is about liquidity. And to this day, banks and financial institutions still operate with pre-funded accounts. Trillions of dollars sitting idle in Nostro and Vostro accounts to maintain global settlements. Ripple's on-demand liquidity challenges that structure. Instead of locking capital in multiple jurisdictions, financial institutions can utilize XRP as a neutral bridge currency. This is about moving value almost instantly. When efficiency improves at scale, capital requirements shift. When capital requirements shift, liquidity demand increases. The three architects of the XRP ledger, Arthur Britto, David Schwartz, and Jed McCaleb, always intended XRP to replace Nostro Vostro accounts. The cross-border payment market processes trillions of dollars in transactions on a yearly basis. To put things in perspective, SWIFT alone processes about $200 trillion per year in payments. If even a small percentage of SWIFT flows through the XRP ledger, everything will change. Custodians will need strategic holdings, exchanges will see circulating supply decrease over time. XRP is set to vanish from exchanges once it becomes the settlement layer of the financial system. Once an asset becomes a collateral for derivatives markets, a vast amount of its supply must be locked by institutional custody. XRP has a fixed maximum supply. No more XRP can ever be created. Approximately 40 billion XRP were placed in escrow with a transparent release schedule. Supply dynamics can change overnight once institutional demand kicks in. When you look at today's market circumstances, 3000 XRP might not seem life-changing, but here is what everyone's missing out. XRP's success depends on the failure of the current financial system. The way money moves has to fundamentally change. So there is a specific reason why I have mentioned 2030. A 4-year window aligns perfectly with regulatory cycles. If XRP captures just a small fraction of SWIFT, let's say 10% of SWIFT, that's enough to trigger a massive XRP supply shock. A higher priced XRP is in fact a better vehicle for payments. And let's not forget, Agenda 2030 by the World Economic Forum is all about bringing value on-chain. They want to tokenize stocks, pension funds, energy, solar panels, human behavior. The concept of owning nothing and being happy is all about tokenization of real-world assets. It's about digital ownership, but that's a topic for another video. Now let's understand why that ties to XRP. When you mention XRP, the first thing that comes to mind is cross-border payments. And honestly, that makes sense. That's XRP primary use case. You can tokenize everything of value on the XRP ledger. It has the first ever built-in DEX that's operating since 2012. One innovation in process is tokenizing a $1.2 quadrillion derivative markets on-chain. With a global reset on the horizon, a liquidity crisis is inevitable. Historically, liquidity stress accelerates financial innovation. And when liquidity is under pressure, Capital always flows towards efficiency. And here's the fatal mistake. Most retail investors still think of XRP as just being the average cryptocurrency. So if you hold just 3000 XRP, you are positioning yourself among the top 10% holders. And if you hold less than 3000 XRP, don't underestimate your holdings. What's gonna play a pivotal role to succeed in the long term, regardless of the amount of XRP that you hold? Honestly, I don't care if you hold 3000 XRP or 300 XRP. What matters most is how well you're gonna manage those holdings. First, you need self-custody. You can't leave your XRP sitting in centralized exchanges. Second is about your profits management. If you are not psychologically prepared for price appreciation, you're gonna end up selling your entire bag once XRP hits $10. That's a fatal mistake that I broke down in my previous videos. And once adoption scales, you can't afford mistakes. If you hold just 100 XRP, you are automatically outperforming 99% of the world's population. Once XRP becomes a global reserve currency, most people will not even own 100 XRP. If they get lucky, they're gonna own fractions of XRP. In the same way, most Bitcoin holders don't even own BTC, they actually own Satoshis. People transacting on the XRP ledger will actually be entitled to drops. Once XRP becomes embedded into cross-border payments as financial plumbing, most people will be utilizing XRP without even comprehending they are transacting on the XRP ledger. Just like a lot of people nowadays do international payments without even being aware they are doing that on SWIFT network. A system that's heavily weaponized by Western nations. Another reason why there is a necessity for a neutral bridge asset. An asset that has no political bias, neither can be instrumentalized by any nation. And coming back to the main topic of this video, 3000 XRP to actually retire. Is that possible? I want to propose a hypothetical scenario. Don't take this as a price prediction. I'm just picking up these numbers to demonstrate a scenario. So picture this, we are in 2030. The financial system has completely changed. 10% of SWIFT's daily volume flows on the XRP ledger. Derivatives market is tokenized on-chain, and financial institutions massively adopted XRP strategic reserves. So let's say XRP is trading at $1,000. You have now the equivalent of $3 million sitting in cold wallets. So here's my intention. I want to become a liquidity provider to financial institutions like Bank of America and Santander, but I want to do that in a regulated way. Nowadays, you can generate some sorts of income out of your XRP with automated market makers, which I don't recommend. If you now offer your XRP for a liquidity pool in exchange for returns, you are subject to impairment loss. In other words, volatility can actually wipe out your holdings. And to this day, there is no native staking for XRP. So if you want to generate yield, you need to give away self-custody. Not happening now. I don't recommend. That's why I leave my XRP sitting in cold wallets. I want to generate yield out of my XRP through lending platforms. And I truly mean regulated lending platforms. You set up a contract with Santander and you become a liquidity provider to a financial institution. So let's remain conservative. Let's say you're going to generate about 4% annually. That's about $120,000 per year, which translates to about $10,000 per month. So here's the big idea. I don't think you can buy a yacht with that money, but I truly believe with $10,000 monthly, you can live a comfortable life anywhere in the world. And this is also the reason why you want to take profits strategically. So this is just a hypothetical scenario. I truly believe 3000 XRP can retire you in the future. Remember, this is not a financial advice. When we take into equation tokenization of real-world assets, cross-border payments, capturing a fraction of SWIFT. Let me know in the comments, do you believe $10,000 monthly is enough to retire financially? And remember, XRP's price is infinitely scalable. Once utility kicks in, I truly believe it will be a perpetual run. We no longer have the traditional crypto cycle tied to speculation. More liquidity comes in, more value is tokenized on-chain. At this point, XRP's price has simply to adjust upwards. The greatest bull run in history is going to be a perpetual run for utility tokens. BTC will no longer run the crypto world. Thank you everyone. I'm gonna see you in the next video.